Welcome to the Sunday morning meditation service. To me, this is the most important thing we can do to get ourselves at peace and to be able to walk in peace and spread that peace to the planet at this time. There's so much going on, and we must be in a transition period, and we want that transition to go to the light. So we see this light spreading all around the planet. To see that light as we chant and we do this service today. We are vehicles of the light, and when we meditate, we raise ourselves so we are glowing all around us, and we affect so many people with it. So thank you for coming and making the effort to sit down and do this meditation with us. This is a call and response. I sense the stillness inside of me. Calling me, calling me. Be still and know God. A force trying to guide me. Loving me, loving be still and know God. I feel the presence within me. Calling me, calling me. Be still and know God. I sense the force that begins me. Loving me, loving me. Be still and know God. I join the oneness around me. Calling me, calling me. Be still and know God. I sense the stillness inside of me.
Good morning, everyone. At the Easter lunch, I got into a discussion with a longtime member who stated that there are a lot of people really worried about the war in Ukraine, that it could lead to Armageddon. Armageddon, of course, is considered the last battle on earth between good and evil. Armageddon is really, ideally speaking, the place where the battle is to take place, the actual location. And he wanted my thoughts on the subject, and I said, the battle between good and evil, that final battle is being fought every day in each person. And that is the battle between that limited, fear-driven awareness and the freedom of recognition of the presence in every moment. So you see, a fear-motivated life, and you can check yourself out on this, is one in which you worry and are concerned about many things. So many of them you have no control over. These are things that are taking place in the world beyond your abilities to intervene in any way. So it is wise in the beginning just to know that you're going to deal with that which appears on your path personally. You can deal with those other things, you go and vote. That's always a legitimate way to add your understanding to things. But if you are really interested in entering a state of freedom and peace, then it is necessary to realize it is your internal awareness that is responsible for how you see life. How you see life. There's an old anecdote, a Native American anecdote, in which this father, this Indian, sitting beside his 4-year-old son fishing, wants to relate to him the vicissitudes of the mental side of life and what goes on in our experience. And he says to the boy, there are 2 wolves fighting within me, and actually fighting within every person. One wolf is considerate, aware, beautiful, and friendly. The other wolf is inconsiderate, mean, vengeful. And the boy says to the father, well, which wolf will win? The father says, the one I feed, of course. And this is a beautiful idea that we should understand. That which we're giving our attention to is creating our outlook on life. Can you imagine that for a moment? That which we give our attention to creates our outlook on life. Whereas for a long time, for the most part, for most of us growing up, we assumed that life was determining how we feel, our emotions, how we react, and how we think. But when you get down to consciousness and how it operates, you come to realize that that which you are giving your attention to, and often giving your attention to, and how you think about conditions, circumstances, yourself, are really creating the way you experience life. So, A Course in Miracles relates to it in this way. Can we have this up on the PowerPoint, please? You can read this in the Course in Miracles workbook, page 167, paragraphs 1 and 2. Although you are one self. Here's you're running hurdles along this dirt road in the stadium. But here's the one right there. This hurdle is so much higher than the others to begin to even consider. So we usually run around it and not try to hurdle it. You are one self. However, you experience yourself as two, as both good and evil, loving and hating, mind and body. This sense of being split into opposites induces feelings of acute and constant conflict and leads to frantic attempts to reconcile the contradictory aspects of the self-perception. You have sought many solutions, and none of them has worked. The opposites you see in you will never be compatible, but one exists. The fact that truth and illusion cannot be reconciled. No matter how you try, what means you use and where you see the problem must be accepted if you would be saved. Until you have accepted this, you will attempt an endless list of goals you cannot reach. Can we take this back again, please? Although you are one self, you experience yourself as two, as both good and evil, loving and hating, mind and body. We should be aware also of the fact that we become so used to this dualistic awareness that it is habitual. And we probably don't know enough about the subconscious mind, which is a repository of our, ongoing thinking. So that you may even decide you don't want to have a certain way of thinking about someone or something. And you find yourself saying things that are in contradiction to the very thing you don't want to be saying. Well, that's because it's built up, it's habitual, it's in our deepest recesses of our consciousness. And that is why being mindful is a necessary task for us on the spiritual journey. We have to be mindful. You can ask yourself this question: are you keenly aware when a negative emotion is rising within you? Or do you just give it life and breath and action? So that when a negative emotion arises, it seems to you, this is natural. Lots of people feel this way. I have good reason to feel this way. And so you may hold a negative attitude toward someone, something, some circumstance in your life. And it may be ongoing. You may have deep-seated distaste for the work you do. Or you may have a certain element within you that feels a negative vibe when it comes to a certain type of personality. And it goes on like that, but it's basically, it is one's deepest beliefs that are being experienced when you're experiencing life. How you see life has to do with your deepest held thoughts and emotions, or you could say the longest held habitual ideas that you have given yourself over to. And you see, you reach a certain place where you think, I'm an adult. I've been educated. I have my lifestyle. I have my family. And I see things the way they are. But then you step into a place like this, or you read a book, and someone is talking about a higher dimension of awareness in which, and this is the master speaking, you are in the world, but no longer of it. And it is what A Course in Miracles is saying is the only way to true happiness, true love, true peace, and true wisdom. That's it. If you don't ever get there, the masters say, you have never really truly come to life. You haven't awakened to true life. You are simply living, in fact, you're being determined by the events you perceive outside yourself, seeing that they, and supposing that they, have a separate reality, that they rise separate from you, and you are simply reacting to them in the most reasonable, conscious way you can. That's what the world believes. That's the thinking of the world. That's the foundation of the world. And if you wonder why the world is in conflict and in war, it is because most people still don't have a handle on this line up here. You are one self. One self. So that you may think your thoughts and actions have no repercussions on you personally. Fact of the matter is, they are determining how you are experiencing life. Let's take a look at this next PowerPoint, please. Here we have what would be considered the bad wolf. The ego-centered consciousness, which is developed naturally as we are born and raised in a world whose foundation in thought is separation. The ego's plan, then, for salvation centers around holding grievances. It maintains that if someone else spoke or acted differently, if some external circumstance or event were changed, you would be saved. That is, you would find yourself in this sublime place where all was good, life was good, not threatening, not fearful, not difficult. So you would find yourself in the reality of feeling good or feeling God. All's right with the world. That's what it means by being saved. Thus, the source of salvation is constantly perceived as outside yourself. Each grievance you hold is a declaration and an assertion in which you believe that says, if this were different, I would be saved. The change of mind necessary for salvation is thus demanded of everyone and everything except yourself. The role assigned to your own mind in this plan, then, is simply to determine what, other than itself, must change if you are to be saved. According to this insane plan, any perceived source of salvation is acceptable, provided that it will not work. Can you bring this back again, please? The insights here is so extraordinary about grievances. Isn't it amazing how A Course in Miracles is attempting to get us to think differently about ourselves and pointing out the foibles of the limited thinking that we embrace every day. That's it. Now, if you're on the spiritual path, in other words, if you hear about people that are enlightened, if you want to get to a place where you live a life truly worth living, you really want to get to this place where you are able to transcend the conditioned thinking that you have relied upon as your basis for responding, which is that things happen to me. But what if it's not so? What if things only happen through me? Like my world, which is different from everybody else's world, because of the way I perceive things. What if it's true that nothing happens to me per se, it actually more or less happens through me because of my collection of beliefs over, decades of responding a certain way and thinking a certain way and having really certain beliefs that we cling to. Now, of course, in Miracles is trying to get us to take to task our own awareness and try it out. Because you will have to try it out and have experience that is different than what you're used to having. So, the ego's plan for salvation centers around holding grievances. It maintains that if someone else spoke or acted differently, if some external circumstance or event were changed, you would be saved. You would be at peace. Thus, the source of salvation is constantly perceived as outside yourself. Each grievance you hold is a declaration and an assertion in which you believe that says, if this were different, I would be saved. See how you want the world outside you to be different, and suppose that if it were different and it met your personal desires, your projections, your demands, then it would be a world truly worth living in. But it doesn't happen that way. Listen to this. Can you imagine saying this? Totally. It doesn't happen that way for anyone, ever. The change of mind necessary for salvation is thus demanded of everyone and everything except yourself. The role assigned to your own mind, your own conditioned, habitually oriented mind in this plan, then, is simply to determine what, other than itself, must change if you are to be saved, have peace of mind. According to this insane plan, any perceived source of salvation is acceptable, provided that it will not work. There is a fear that comes with spirituality. And there's a sorrow that comes with it that isn't necessarily included in the thinking of the world. That fear is entering the unknown. You then become the sheep that is leaving the fold and going off on your own. You've been so used to traveling with and operating with the world as it is. To leave that is somehow fearful. And then there's this other element. As you become more divinely conscious, Christ conscious, Buddha conscious, enlightened conscious. As you do that, you're shifting into this whole idea, oh my goodness, there's something to this whole idea about being oneself. And then what happens is, while you no longer angst over conditions and circumstances that are beyond your control, you have deep compassion. You have your compassion so deepens for the ignorance of the world in conflict. But that comes with an understanding that there is the struggle in the soul of life to find its way into that place that we've always bemoaned. Why the hell cannot people get along? Why the hell can't they go along with things and befriend each other and take care of each other and serve each other and help each other? Why? Then you get to that place. Because there is this colossal ignorance in which we were born, raised, educated. And so we hold to the illusionary idea of separation. And unless we decide by experience that the separation is a flawed perception, we will not really find life truly worth living. How would you like to be free of worry? Any kind of worry. Yes, there's compassion for all that's taking place that is not in keeping with harmony, consideration. But it's no longer going to take you down. You'll have compassion for it. And whatever you're guided from the higher awareness to do, you will do. But to that higher awareness, you will owe your allegiance. And to nothing else but that. So now I'm going to, in my own words, share with you this passage from the Bible, which I share, and then I usually share it and put it up on the PowerPoint, and then I have to interpret it while it's up there. I've already interpreted, so now this is my interpretation of Matthew 12, 34 to 37. I will more clearly define this scripture in the Gospel of Matthew 12, 34 to 37. For out of the abundance of the heart, one's deepest beliefs, a person speaks and acts. The good person out of the good treasure in his, her heart creates good in his, her relationships and circumstances. And the evil person out of his, her evil thoughts and beliefs brings forth evil in his, her relationships and circumstances. Though such a person seldom equates his, her consciousness with the negative conditions and incompatible relationships in his or her life. I tell you, every day is the day of judgment, in which everyone is rendering account for every careless, inconsiderate word they utter and every mean-minded act they commit or even contemplate. Can we take this back again, please? For out of the abundance of the heart, and you should know the heart quite often just represents the deeper element or the subconscious mind, which Edgar Casey says actually becomes or will influence and become the soul. And I'll just give you a brief aside on this. According to the Casey readings, and he's the most believable of those that delve into these arcane things, the subconscious mind actually, which is always being developed as you live life after life, not just in this dimension, but as you do that, the subconscious mind actually affects the soul consciousness, and that affects whatever life you may find yourself living, wherever you are, whatever dimension may be. So when it says keep your heart, you know, in the Psalm, it's not the Psalm, it's Proverbs. It's Proverbs 4:23. Keep your heart with all vigilance, for out of it come the issues of your life. I mean, these masters are talking about the same thing. They're not saying just go live out there and be tossed to and fro by every changing tide of thought and circumstance, but take some vigilance, some time to be vigilant. So it says, keep your heart with all vigilance, for out of it are the issues of your life. That's what this is saying in its own way. For out of the abundance of the heart, one's deepest beliefs, a person speaks and acts. The good person out of the good treasure in his, her heart creates good in his or her relationships and circumstances. And the evil person, that is the person that is not yet awake, out of his or her limited, fear-driven collection of beliefs and thoughts, brings forth evil, limitation, fear, concern, conflict in his or her relationships and circumstances, though such a person seldom equates his or her consciousness with the negative conditions and incompatible relationships in his or her life. I tell you, every day is the day of judgment, in which everyone is rendering account for every careless, inconsiderate word they utter, and every mean-minded act they contemplate or commit. So, you know, it's a lot of this stuff operates, you know, we're communicating intellectually. I think the most spiritual communication, of course, is music. Music can lift you and take you and actually can phase you in and out of emotions. It's a great communicator. But we're communicating intellectually. But there's still something inside each of us, at the core of our being. We have this divine spark, which actually operates from a more intuitive. In other words, when a light goes on, you can communicate intellectually, but every now and then there'll be a light that says, there's a thought worth considering. And that's the intuition. And at some point, when you do the practice a while, you'll be more apt to take an action from intuition that may seem to other people, why was the reason for that? But you'll be more apt to do that. Why is that? Here's the clincher right here. Here it comes. See, all the time we thought we could maybe believe in God, but not believe in God. It would be all right this way or that way. But now what I'm saying to you is, operating from this intuition, you may decide to do something that other people would look at and say, why are you doing that? And then you would recognize the value of it. But how would that be? It is only true because there really is God. We are all part of that intelligence that is omnipresent, knows all, sees all. So the intuition operates from that guidance. I want to conclude this particular discourse here. This stuff is of very little value unless on faith you put it into practice. You have to try it. You have to try meditation. And I'm not saying you have to do an hour of meditation. You can do 10 minutes in the beginning. And then try to carry the feeling that you get, that meditation gives you, that you're okay. You are really okay all the time, no matter what you think, no matter what you do. You're okay as far as the universe goes, because you are meeting the limited views of your consciousness. So you're being trained, whether you know it or not, or accept it or not, or take it to task or not, that's fine. You're okay because it was set up that way, and that's the plan divine. So you are always okay. Now when you sit in meditation and you accept the fact that you're okay, that you have no reason really to be guilty. You were born, raised, and educated in a certain way. You're operating a certain way. It's not guilt that's going to motivate you. You start to meditate, what's going to motivate you is the joy and the peace that are not contingent upon circumstances. You're going to feel good for no apparent reason. And you meditate more and more, you're going to feel good going throughout the day, even though some negative things are taking place and conditions are happening that you wouldn't necessarily want to happen, but they're happening. And you feel okay, and your intuition seems to let you know you're still okay. We're going to listen to these bowls and let them just carry us along. The mind, in the beginning, really needs something to be focused on. You can focus on the beauty of what's happening through these bowls. And you can begin to feel comfortable just sitting here, doing nothing. Not planning, not fearing, not grasping, not wanting, just being here. And then I'm going to lead you in a contemplative meditation. And I'm not going to try to explain that. Let's just get on with the bowls. You'll pick it up. I'm going to lead a contemplative meditation when the bowls conclude chiming. A new dimension of awareness awaits us as we enter miracle-mindedness. That is, as we become willing to see the Divine One behind our grievances. Thus is the seeing of the world reversed. Select one person you have used as a target for your grievances and lay the grievances aside and look at him or her. Someone perhaps you fear or hate, someone you love who has angered you, or a friend who has done something opposing your point of view or untrue to the role you set for him or her. Seeing this person filtered through your grievances, you see him, you see her not. Now, however, we ask to see his, her true self, no longer an intrusion on our peace and well-being. We let all grievances dissolve and fade away like a mist in the morning sun. Now we realize that this divine presence exists in everyone when released from our personal grievances. We now understand everyone I look upon, everyone I see, is made of light, just like me. I will appreciate and remember that everyone I look upon, everyone I see, is made of light, just like me. I will appreciate and remember that everyone I look upon, everyone I see, is made of light, just like me. A new dimension of awareness awaits us as we become willing to see the Divine One behind our grievances. Thus is the seeing of the world released. Select one person you have used as a target for your grievances and lay the grievances aside and look at him or her. Someone perhaps you fear or hate, someone you love who has angered you, or a friend who has done something opposing your point of view, or untrue to the role you set for him or her. Seeing this person filtered through your grievances, you see him not. Now, however, we ask to see him, her, true self, no longer an intrusion on our peace and well-being. We let all grievances dissolve and fade away like a mist in the morning sun. Now we realize that this divine presence exists in everything and everyone when released from our personal grievances. We now understand everyone I look upon, everyone I see, is made of light, just like me. I will appreciate and remember that everyone I look upon, everyone I see, is made of light, just like me. I will appreciate and remember that everyone I look upon, everyone I see, is made of light, just like me. As we go forth from this meditation to those places we occupy in time and space, let us go forth with a greater determination to practice being more awake in life. For this opportunity in every moment, we give thanks. And to this we say, Amen. We will take an offering for unity now. As we're preparing to do this, those of you that are online, live stream, you have any number of ways right here in which you can tithe to Unity of Boulder. If you're receiving some inspiration, some help from the ministry here, then we would appreciate you tithing to it, supporting it. And so let us bring to mind, and those of you that are here like to make a physical gift, you can bring it to your hand. And let's bless the gift we'd like to make to Unity with this offering prayer. Divine love, through me, blesses and multiplies all that I have, all that I give, and all that I receive, because I give. So it is.
Spread over us wings of your peace. Spread over us wings of your peace. For with you
Join me now, please. We dedicate that tithe to the will and the work of the Spirit of truth, the Spirit available to each of us, the Spirit that joins all of us. We dedicate this tithe to the victory of the Spirit of truth. Amen. Santisha will be giving the second service at 11 o'clock. Those of you who would like to stay and participate, we have great refreshments in Fellowship Hall. I mean great. They turned out to be not only great, but expensive. So go in there and enjoy our refreshments. Maybe you want to hang out, discuss, meet people around you, and then come back for the 11 o'clock service. That's cool too. To everyone, have a beautiful day.